First of all, this guy's living in a defense mechanism. Andrew Tate is a big scam. And I don't want to bash on a weak foe because he's been already accused of like human trafficking and that kind of stuff. So I don't want to jump on the bandwagon to be like, oh yeah, fuck this guy. But I just want to tell you guys what I see being a spiritual guy. First of all, this guy's living in a defense mechanism. How can I tell? It's because the first thing I do is look at his face, right? And I don't want to say it's asymmetrical because, you know, your bone structure, that's kind of genetic. But if you look at the eyes, his eyes are almost like doing that, right? Looking in two directions. And not because he's cross-eyed, but this is usually what we have when the left and the right side are not in balance. Our right, the masculine side, usually refers to wanting control, being active, building things. It's kind of more like the primal instincts, right? And the female side is usually more about letting energy in, relaxing, connecting, being in the moment. This guy is not in balance. And this is more of my behavioral science background. Andrew Tate constantly needs to have an upper hand in basically everywhere he goes. So especially in conversations, in like, because everything is just some kind of power struggle for him. And I think, you know, if you constantly need the upper hand, you must be scared. Because otherwise you just don't give a fuck. If you constantly need the upper hand, you're basically afraid of losing. And to me, when I don't have the upper hand in the conversation, I'm quite confident. I don't really give a fuck. I also don't feel like I'm the lesser guy, you know? I know my self-worth. Andrew Tate comes off as a guy who is like king of the jungle, but we live in a society, right? We're evolved from the jungle, and it's kind of like this guy just is still adhering to all the rules of what it's like being in the jungle, and constantly, you know, is trying to win power struggles that really aren't there. And he's also making you believe that everything kind of is that power struggle. Like you need to have I just giving an example, like you need to have a firm handshake, you need to do these and these things while dining. What I also think is pretty shitty about Andrew Tate that I can tell is that he is not embodying what he is teaching. He does not, right? He's saying all these things, like, for example, all the things that come to when he's going to dinner with a friend or like a girl, all the things you need to do to make that, you know, a good evening or come out basically on top in any way of the word. But the stories change. So each time it's something else, and sometimes the stories also don't match up. For example, he says he always is working. Well, there's also like a video of him saying basically that he's on his phone all day, or his brother's actually saying he's on his phone all day. Andrew Tate has obviously found his authentic way. I can't say that it's then a good way because you make money and you have cars and you have women. For me, that doesn't mean that you're doing anything necessarily good. But in a materialistic world, you're obviously succeeding ahead of other people. I also believe that even if it's your authentic path, and even if it gets you to riches and stuff, that's even where your lessons can begin and where your struggle begins. This guy really struggled early on in life, and I think that's also why I need all these defense mechanisms, right? It's just basically surviving. And I think that's why it reminds me of like someone who is in the jungle and just knows how to survive there. And for sure, like if I and Andrew Tate get in a fight, like he would kick my ass, you know, as a kickboxing champion. And not that being out of balance is like such a big issue, but I think when you're explaining to the whole world how you should be as a man, that should come with some credibility. And if I can just have one glance at you and say like, oh, but you're not in balance and you're not embodying what you're saying. Well, that doesn't take one glance. That's you know, that's a few impressions to come to that conclusion. But yeah, then I'm very sorry for. But it also fascinates me. I'm very sorry for people who have to follow in them, and it does fascinate me how people then don't see that essential thing in him, and apparently find it so important to have answers to their problems that they will go to a guy like Andrew Tate. And I don't say this guy has nothing to teach, right? He sure knows about a couple of things better than I do also. But if it comes to how you should be as a human and what you should do as a man, and you know how you said just basically how you should balance your life and stuff, this guy does not know what he's talking about one bit. I want to be very clear on that. When I look at his right eye, I see all these like ideas and way things kind of need to be. When I look at his left eye, I see basically kind of it shutting off. It's like depth is lacking in that eye, right? To really, it's kind of like he shuts off his emotions in that part. And I can tell that he just stops it, and it's not because he doesn't have any depth, but he is not allowing himself maybe to get in any emotion. I don't know, but he's definitely shutting off a big part of it. I can tell, and the emotion I then see in that left eye, it is fear. So then you need that whole other side to compensate for that. Becoming manly will just kind of be a coping mechanism, and it's a very fatiguing way to live. If you just can handle your insecurity, you know, in the core. I don't want to say it's insecurity for everyone. I'm just giving an example, something I've been through as well in a certain manner. But if you can handle that insecurity, you don't need to be very like this and like that anymore, and you can just relax, be like, oh, I'm just, you know, insecure. And in my case, I learned how to let that go. So I don't know if this guy is a human trafficker. I don't want to get into that stuff. I just want to give you my impression of what I get when I look at videos of Andrew Tate. If there's other guys where you're like, I want to know your take on like, what do you think about this guy? I will sure look it up. I will do my research there. So this was my thing about Andrew Tate. Stay yourself, people. Love yourself a little bit. I'll see you with the next video. Ciao, ciao.